Welcome to everyone to AAKP's annual patient meeting. In this session, we'll be talking about the decade of the kidney and what it takes to actually drive innovation globally and AAKP's role in that. We'll be joined by a very special guest, good friend and an ally of the American Association of Kidney Patients. So what is the decade of the kidney? This is a special initiative AAKP launched in 2019, and we launched it for a very specific reason. At that point in time, in 2019, there were two major events that were going on. Here in the United States, you had the rollout of a transformative executive order. And in that executive order, what it called for was greater innovation in kidney disease. And what does that mean? It means identifying the disease earlier with better diagnostics and driving treatment so that it's coordinated in a more holistic approach and patient-centered. It also meant the development of new options for home care and more portable dialysis. And most importantly, it gave light and rationale to the need for an artificial implantable kidney. Now, artificial kidneys can be implantable, they can be wearable, but the idea of creating something that could bridge the gap for patients that are waiting for transplant and be a solution that is not an in-center dialysis option is vitally important. So you had that aspect that was being announced in 2019, and another thing that went on in 2019 that involved the American Association of Kidney Patients. We had the rare opportunity, at the invitation of Dr. Barry Smith and the Rogerson Institute, to be able to participate in the United Nations Forum on healthcare and end-of-life issues. And one of the issues that was in that discussion on biomedical ethics and some of the pressures and concerns that are brought upon patients was this issue of what is the burden of care? And for kidney patients, we understand that it's tremendous. And when you take a look at kidney disease worldwide, the numbers are staggering and they're very troubling. And those numbers are only getting worse. In the era of COVID-19 and acute kidney injury, there's an even more compelling need to come up with solutions. But in that discussion at the nations, the American Association of Kidney Patients became concerned because part of the discussion became about the limit of resources to address chronic disease. And we don't view it like that. We believe that through innovation in private sector industry, we're able to arrive at solutions for kidney disease patients that don't involve limiting care. Instead, we want to increase care. And we want to increase care and access to better care through technology and innovation. So we rolled out the decade of the kidney to make certain that the positive things that were happening in the executive order would keep going for the next decade, that all of the positive energies that were being exerted to create more options, more patient care choice, better patient care quality, were able to go beyond simply one presidential administration here in the US and to go beyond the United States and end up collaborating with patients worldwide and professionals worldwide so that we don't always have to take a look at healthcare issues in terms of limiting care. Instead, we can take a look at how to expand care, how to intervene in disease early, and make certain that those who are suffering have solutions no matter what country they live in, so that their lives can be extended and so that they can participate more fully in life. Because at AAKP, we've never seen kidney disease as simply a healthcare issue. It's not. It's both a healthcare issue and a workforce issue. This is about making certain that people stay healthy enough so that they can be independent, so they can pursue their dreams and their aspirations. If they want to own a home, if they want to start a family, if they want to provide for their family, and most importantly, if they want to retire securely. You must be able to be engaged, whether that's part-time work or full-time work, whatever you are able to do. Kidney disease should not be the limit to your ability to live a full life. And that's why we're very, very dedicated to innovations and very dedicated to collaborating with people throughout the world. People of goodwill can arrive at very effective solutions. So that brings us to our speaker this morning. Fokko Wieringa is a very talented human factors engineer. He's an engineer with the Dutch Kidney Foundation, advises them. He's also part of the IMEC in Europe, which is a very well-known establishment for innovation and engineering solutions. And he's a very prominent voice in the Kidney Health Initiative here in the United States. Most importantly, he and Dr. Murray Sheldon at the FDA are working collaboratively with doctors and engineers and science researchers throughout the globe. And what they understand is that in order to get an artificial implantable kidney or a wearable kidney out into the consumer markets, it's going to take patients driving this effort. And that's where we've come in. AAKP has stood up a network of patient collaborators across the globe, and we're growing those. Fokko has played a very prominent role because he's a champion of patients, as is Dr. Sheldon at the FDA. And so what I've asked Fokko to do is to lay out how much progress is actually being made and has begun for a global consortium of engineers and patients and scientists who are working on the next generation of kidney care. It's fascinating how fast this is developing. We announced Decade of the Kidney in 2019, and in just a few short years, these collaborations have come together more formally. And as Fokko will diagram, it's an exciting enterprise that has taken root. It has captured the imagination of the next generation of doctors and researchers, and we're very, very optimistic that within this decade, there will be new solutions, including artificial organs for patients. So without further ado, Fokko, go right ahead.
Hello, and thanks for the invitation to speak at the AAKP conference. Well, I'm here to talk about how patient voices can bridge oceans and actually are doing this at this very moment. And the key to that is the Decade of the Kidney that was started by AAKP to improve patient quality of life. And AAKP also works with the Kidney Health Initiative very close together, and they have also been working on this wonderful technology roadmap for innovative approaches to renal replacement therapies. And, that is a great thing. It is also being picked up and recognized by the European Kidney Health Alliance on the other side of the ocean. Well, there we got the bridge already. And if we look upon the American side, how the Kidney Health Initiative is organized, we see a roundtable. This roundtable is bringing together all the parties that are really important to get things to a solution. But when we look upon the European side, funny enough, and those pictures actually come from both sides independently from each other, but we see a big resemblance. Also, a roundtable where charity foundations, health foundations, and nephrologists, nurses, and patients all come together to sit and talk about what can we do to solve the problems. And that is a really interesting observation. But there's more resemblance. If we look upon the governmental part, we see the US Congressional Kidney Caucus that is on the American side, with KidneyX as an innovation accelerator. And funny enough, on the European side, we see the members of European Parliament Group for Kidney Health, basically the peers of the US Congress. Isn't that interesting? Those structures are already there. Now, there's even more good news because also via KidNew, the Kidney Implant Developers Network worldwide, the organizations in Europe, Japan, the Asian Pacific, and the American Society for Artificial Organs are also coupled in via the technology roadmap. And if we look upon all these structures, now we see that there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, all brought together by the Decade of the Kidney initiated by AAKP.
Fokko, as an engineer, can you tell us how important it is to have kidney patients and their insights involved? The whole idea of human factors engineering, I know, is a passion for you. But as you're envisioning what that next generation of kidney care is going to be and what artificial organs look like, how important is the patient perspective?
Well, excellent question. I can only say all people have heard of Murphy's Law. And the one that conceived it, Captain Murphy, he was one of the first human factor engineers. And he pronounced clearly that it is crucial to interact with all that are directly involved. If you don't do it, forget it. You'll never succeed. And if you do that, you have a good chance.
Thank you very much, Fokko. You've been a strong champion of including patient voice, and laying out the practical aspects of it is vitally important. Let me ask you this. You're a prominent influencer in your country and now throughout the globe in your belief of what can be done. Can you tell me, in an era of a lot of negative news about different issues, how confident are you that patients and scientists working together can actually gain consensus from global leaders, both on the political side and on the industry side and that type of thing. What do you think the chances are for growing this collaboration?
Well, I have very good hope for the case of kidney-related innovations. There is, for instance, the US Bipartisan Congressional Kidney Caucus, which is firmly supporting the roadmap from KHI and investing in KidneyX to stimulate innovation. And then on the European side, we have the European Parliament Kidney Health Group that is doing more or less the same thing on our side. So that is a very good starting point, and with the decade of the kidney as a bridge in between, I'm optimistic. And even so, in June, the US and EU also signed an agreement upon joint research. So that is also a good step forward, I would think.
Fokko, you have introduced me to Dr. Kolf as the founder of modern dialysis and as the inventor of the first dialysis machine. And he's recognized throughout the world for his heroism and selflessness in extending the lives of kidney patients through invention and innovation. Let me ask you something. You know his history, you know his biography, you've seen where he did his work in his original offices. If he were alive today, what do you think Dr. Kolf would say about the efforts that you, Dr. Sheldon, and patients throughout the world are involved in to try to advance the cause of kidney care and to invent the next generation of kidney devices?
Well, you mentioned here one of the persons that I admire the most. I even have his biography on my desk. And Dr. Kolf is indeed considered the father of artificial organs. And the first organ that ever was replaced was the kidney. He invented the first usable hemodialysis machine. Would he be pleased that an international consortium is growing? He would be jumping for joy. And, if he was still alive, he certainly would be part of that. I think it's one of the things that he really would have liked to get going during his lifetime. And this man has done tremendous work also on the artificial heart. And I think that indeed, in his spirit, we should consider these problems. He always fought in solutions and somehow always found a way to cooperate. And indeed, he connected the best brains in the world. So let's do it all over again. Connect the best brains in the world, just like Kolf did. Build this international consortium, raise funding, get the best brains to work together, and solve those problems, because the patients really need better solutions.
Fokko, one of the things that you share with kidney patients is a tremendous sense of humor. And I know that during World Kidney Day, you worked with our allies at the European Kidney Health Alliance to develop a cartoon and unveil a cartoon. Can you give me some background behind that and what the genesis of it was?
Oh, yes, I can. Well, this was triggered by a remark from a good friend of mine that said, we're surrounded by all kind of smart things and everything changed. Even my vacuum cleaner is a robot nowadays and thinking itself, but I still have to operate my home dialysis machine in quite a clumsy way. Can't we make that smarter? And that's how we figured out this cartoon with a guy from the 70s and a guy now, and he's very frustrated because in the 70s the idea really was within 10 years that dialysis will be a part of home and you can travel with that, and that research was really going on, but somehow the funding dried up, and that was really a pity, because if we would have carried on, we'd already have very nice portable wearable machines, I would think. But the good news is that there's a revival of research. And nowadays, even an implantable artificial kidney is already in an animal trial stage in the US. So I would think, in the end, we can pick innovation up again. But the cartoon was to tickle, why don't we innovate kidney replacement therapy that much as we do game computers?
Fokko, for those of us, including Ed Hickey and Richard Knight and many others at AAKP who have had the honor to work with you individually and one-on-one, we have watched how kidney patients have impacted you. You listen very closely to what they're saying. You ask a lot of very, very probing questions about how kidney disease has impacted them. We have a video here, and I want you to tell me, when you watch this, How does this impact you? What do you think about this video when you hear this patient speak?
My name is Henning Søndergaard, and I work as a psychologist for the Danish Kidney Association. They're basically still the same technology as they were 50 years ago, which is horrible. I mean, it blows my mind that that can happen. And usually what I say is if the innovation in consumer electronics had been like the innovations in dialysis machine, my laptop or my phone for that matter would be the size of 4 New York City blocks.
Yes, I know this video. It's a great question. Henning Søndergaard is a patient that does home hemodialysis on his own. And he's frustrated about the lack of innovation and miniaturization. And if this indeed would be physically impossible, well, as an engineer, you would say deal with it. But it is physically very possible to miniaturize dialysis machines drastically. And I'm convinced that, for instance, approaches like the Kidney Project in California, and parties like Kidney and the U.S. Kidney Research Corporation are onto a good track. And being myself in semiconductor research, pushing the roadmap for years, I mean, this is a chip that we made. Can you see it at IMEC? Here. Yeah, there we are. Very small chip. It holds a complete medical monitor and also a new principle to improve the removal of protein-bound uremic toxins, which used to be a lab table full of equipment and now put on this tiny chip. So if we can do that, I think we can do a lot more, but the best would be if we would find a way that with sufficient funding, that wouldn't be too much worry about it, like NASA did with the moonshot. You know that you really set to it and that you combine the best brains. This is, by the way, also what I like about the decade of the kidney. To me, it has that sound of, by the end of this decade, we're going to put a man on the moon and safely return him to Earth. I mean, that's the same kind of daring spirit, and that's what we need.
Thank you very much, Fokko, and thanks for joining us at our AAKP annual patient meeting. You've been a strong champion for kidney patients, and you always seek out kidney patient insights to include and inform everything that you're working on, and we appreciate it.